There is nothing that screams NPC more than someone who believes AI is art, especially when the creation is 100% AI without any musical input by the human, if we're talking music, for example. I know that sounds a bit harsh, but that is what comes to mind when I hear people argue that using AI to create artwork is just as much an artistic endeavor than what might be considered more traditional art. Hopefully, after watching this, we can find some middle ground, but I have a feeling since this is such a subjective topic, we may not accomplish that feat. There are many different opinions about what makes something art, especially today with the advent of artificial intelligence in our daily lives. I think some of us can agree that AI can help us. It can be beneficial with certain tasks that are time consuming. But what about when it comes to creativity? I'm going to give my opinion whether the use of AI is truly artistic and understand that there is a lot of gray area in this subject. Again, it is only my opinion. I believe it is a spectrum. I don't believe my definition to be perfect of what art is. However, I do believe it has merit. What makes something art in the first place? If you Google what is art, it gives you this as a definition. Art is the conscious use of skill and creative imagination to produce aesthetic objects, environments, or experiences. It serves as a medium for expressing emotional power, conceptual ideas, or technical proficiency, ultimately designed to evoke a thoughtful or sensory response from an audience. It's decent, but it leaves something out, something spiritually significant. What makes something truly artistic, in my opinion, is human error. Art is never perfect, as no painter can create the perfect painting, no singer can sing the perfect note, no guitarist can play the perfect chord, and no sculptor can design the perfect sculpture. There are always mistakes that are unintended by even the most skilled artist or musician. I'm stating that no art can be perfect in a literal sense, such as no line can be drawn perfectly straight, perhaps with a ruler, you can get very close, and no note can be plucked perfectly. These things will also never be consistent throughout the song, and lines will never be drawn exactly the same way, all the time. This goes for digital art as well. I have done digital art and got A's in school for it, and I physically obtained what I needed to, pictures for example, and put them together to create something different, something new. I chose different colors for my background and used some editing tools to create some effects. And at the end, it was something you could consider to be a decent piece of artwork, maybe. However, the spacing was not perfect, the size of the pictures were not perfect, and the entire piece had little imperfections throughout. In other words, it is only art if there is potential for human error. Even if you prompt AI to make mistakes or errors, it is intentional, so it is not art. When using AI, you are not creating, you are ordering. There is a meme online that goes, quote, "I prompted a song, therefore I am a producer. Ordering food does not make you a chef," end quote. Telling a prompt exactly what you want and then the prompt delivering that for you has no possibility of error, assuming the program does its job. It is going to give you exactly what you asked for. Even if it didn't give you what you wanted and it was full of errors, it would not be you making the error, so the artistic credit would have to go to the AI program, not you. How about editing music, using different tools that your DAW provides? If you are editing the pitch of a vocal or guitar note, you can have it sit right where the note, quote, should be, making it perfect, or you can even have it be a bit sharp or a little flat. This, of course, is an effect the producer will use depending on the mix, and making notes imperfect can also elicit certain emotions from the listener. Editing, mixing, and mastering a musical piece, in my opinion, is on the spectrum of what art is, but it's getting further away from what I would consider true art, since it utilizes a level of technology that makes perfection more attainable. What about visual art? If AI is used to create visual art, the output is technically perfect, and if it wasn't, is that because of the person who made the prompt or the AI itself? There is no error in the mind of someone who makes a prompt, meaning the prompt is always perfect at the time it was made. One may change his mind later, but at the time it was perfect. The AI will likely not give you exactly what you wanted either, since it is taking the data to create the images from somewhere other than your mind. In a sense, the art you are creating with AI comes from the AI's mind and not yours. So how much artistic credit do you deserve? There is also no risk of making an error because the output matches the input. If one were to apply paint to a canvas after imagining what he wanted the output to be, he could very well draw a crooked line that should be straight, or use more paint than was intended at a specific point. There could also be paint that drips from the brush like splatter and gets on the canvas when the artist attempts to paint the horizon line. There is risk with creating art. With AI prompts, there is no risk. It gives you exactly what you ordered from the AI's, quote, mind, and not your own. For those who argue that AI created music and visual art is truly art, since it is the conscious use of the creative imagination to produce aesthetic objects, environments, or experiences, and it also serves as a medium for expressing emotional power, conceptual ideas designed to evoke a thoughtful or sensory response from an audience, I say it falls short simply because AI does not usually make mistakes if it is working properly. Like it's not going to give you a radio with an American flag attached to the antenna when asked for a demonic leprechaun Celtic mascot sitting in the stands at the Boston Garden. If it did make that mistake, then it wouldn't be your creation at all. Then you could not truly be credited for the artwork, in my opinion. If you made a prompt that gave you the correct result, it would never be exactly what you imagined, and it was also not from your mind, but data utilized by the AI tool. I can't argue that is art. I cannot argue that someone is an artist for making prompts. Another way to describe art is human expression, striving for perfection. It is the grind, struggle, blood, sweat, and tears along the road towards creating something beautiful. That is truly what art is. I like to think of it as a painter with a paintbrush, creating something which has the potential of being like a gourmet meal created by a chef. It takes time, care, skill, knowledge, and the result came from the mind of the creator. It is also not perfect. There are small imperfections within what was created, making it highly artistic based on my definition. Whereas AI visual art made with prompts is like fast food. Quick, easy, and skill is not a major factor. Knowledge is not much of a factor either. It is also consistent and lacks human error. A McDonald's burger will taste the same no matter where you go, whether that be America or China. To summarize, a true artist making true art is always at the risk of making mistakes and errors. There will always be little imperfections throughout what was created, and that is what makes it art. That is what makes it human. Also, the artwork itself, the finished product, came directly from the mind of the artist. It was not something that was asked for and then received from a source of data transformed into what the machine interpreted as your thought. I hope you take this as a thought experiment, more or less, and not as some hard truth. Of course, this is only my opinion, and I think there is some gray area. I would love to know what you all think. Is AI truly art? Is there truly such a thing as an AI artist or an AI musician? Why or why not? Thank you for watching.